Yo, what's up, you guys? It's your girl, Trudy LPC, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Self-Aware and Effed Up podcast. I have a special guest with me today. You guys may remember her from last season, but he is back again to talk with you guys about the identity of a male. And we're going to really dive into talking about some things around mental health in African-American males, as well as just looking at toxic masculinity and how that impacts young men and older adults as they age and going through their life cycle. So we're going to have some really, really intimate conversations around that today. So I really appreciate you guys tuning in. I have with me my brother from another mother, Noel Jordan. He is a relentless man. He is the owner of the Relentless Motivational Group. He is also a husband, an author, a podcast host, a blogger. He does pretty much anything that you need. If you need some content, whatever you need, he's the guy to go to. So thank you for joining again, Ken. Welcome to the Self-Aware and Effed Up podcast, Mr. K. Noel Jordan. Hey, Ken, what's going on today?
Too much. I mean, at this point, am I just a guest now? I mean, I'm a frequent here now. This season 2.
Yeah, it's season 2, but you probably gonna come every season or whatever, even though I'm still kind of salty because I still didn't, make it back on your show last season, but we can talk about that offline.
The season isn't done yet, though.
I mean, you've been on hiatus for like a good, 5, 6, 7, 12 months. So I need to know what's going on, bro.
Yeah, it's been a lot going on. So, I mean, in all, I've, as a whole, not only has the company Relentless Motivational Group been going through a lot of changes, but I myself have been going through a lot of changes. So, that is the results of why I've been on such a long hiatus, and it's needed.
Yeah.
So, everybody knows me knows that I'm always constantly working. So, and lately, even that is slowly changing too. So, but yeah, thank you for having me here again for the second season.
I appreciate you coming. Obviously, you motivate me to keep going because, we almost didn't have a season 2. But here we are. But I appreciate you taking time out of your day today just to have a chat. It's a lot of things we can get into, but I know you got a lot going on right now, and wanting to empower young men to be relentless and to really be able to kind of change how they, evolve into manhood. And I know we've talked about this offline. A lot of my listeners are male, still trying to figure that one out. But men, keep listening. It's okay. I definitely want to focus in this season on giving more content and more speakers to speak to the male perspective, because I'm realizing that I do, attract a lot of male followers and listeners. So, hopefully you can shed some light on how they can navigate through, just developing their identity by sharing a little bit of your story. But I'd like to kind of first kick it off with just kind of, explain a little bit about like how you see the definition of a man. Like that's one of the principles you teach in your workshop, right?
Yeah. Had you asked me this last year, my answer would have been totally different. But for me now, in this day, a man is one who is vulnerable. A man, he leads, but he leads with feeling. Like he is in touch with his feelings, not only with himself, but those that are around him. He doesn't mind expressing himself. How does he feel? Because see, us as men, we're afraid to express exactly how we feel. So, and for me, that's one thing I had to learn, that's what a man is. Because let's be real about it. Social media, the world as a whole has this definition of what a man is, and it's completely wrong. We're giving in so much to what society is saying and what they think is a man, but it's not actually what a man is. It's not what an actual king is.
Okay.
Yeah, a man provides, but a man should also be providing emotionally too. And nowadays we live in a society where a woman wants her man to have the money. You know, he
Very
got to
true.
have the bag. If he ain't got the bag, then I don't want you. But you want a man that has a bag, but you don't want a man that has the bag with emotions.
Yeah.
You want a man to have that fancy car, but he's damaged on the inside. We're so busy. We're so busy looking at that outer appearance that we're not doing the work internally.
Right. Yeah. Why do you think men have historically been afraid to be vulnerable?
Because we don't feel safe. Society has put us in a place where, first of all, we grow up with trust issues. Let's be real about it, because we're being told, oh, you're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to do this. And then when we start growing up, we start feeling like, oh, okay, but you're not in touch with your feelings. I need you to be more emotional. I need you to express yourself. So now as a man, we're confused. And it's like, okay, growing up all of these years in my as a child, as a teenager, growing up into a man in my 20s, this is what I thought was to be a man. But now you're telling me that I need to be in touch with my feelings. Now you're telling me that you want me to be more emotional. Now you're telling me you want me to communicate more. But now I'm confused. And now I have trust issues with everything that everybody is telling me, because now it's conflicting. And now as a man, who am I supposed to be? And now there's the identity crisis with men.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. Like, I can definitely understand needing that safe space. What do you think like men need in order to feel safe?
A man needs to be heard. And when I say really heard, I mean, hear me out. And then for those of you who are watching and who was like, why is this man so angry? Please understand, I'm not angry. I'm just passionate. If you know me, you know I'm the Relentless Motivator. So a man wants to be heard, but not only, and when I say he wants to be heard in a way that what he says won't come back to slap him in the face. Because a man can say how he feels, and then next thing you know, it's being made a joke of. I mean, let's be real about it. Let's look at Will Smith.
Yeah.
We made so many jokes about his hurt, about his pain. And now other men are looking at this very thing. And so, and now as a man, it's like, okay, now I see it ain't safe to express how I feel. Now I see it's not safe to be vulnerable. So let me tuck my tail and let me go back into my cave. Let me go back into this shell. Let me go back into being the place that I know to be safe, is where I bottle everything up. Because as long as I keep everything inside of me and not express it and not speak it out, then I know that I'm safe. Because if I start telling how I feel, next thing I know, you're turning your back on me. If I start telling how I feel, you're using my very words against me. Right. And now you're pushing me away, or now you're making excuses to why you don't want to deal with me.
Wow. Yeah, that's deep. And it definitely is something I think people need to hear and understand. I know as women, you know, and obviously I speak from a different perspective. I kind of identify more as with my masculine energy than with my feminine energy. So I kind of, found myself like, as I'm listening to you, like, shit, that's how I feel. A lot of times, like, that's how I feel. Like I open up and I'm raw, and then it's used against me. But I think that that's something as women, I think that that's a part of sometimes our toxic femininity that no one wants to talk about, that we're taught that, it's a cycle. We want people to open up. We want them to be vulnerable, but then we use that as a way to kind of weaponize it against men. So like creating that safe space is really, I think it sounds like it's critical for you as a man in order for you to feel comfortable enough to open up.
Yeah. is very important.
Yeah.
Because because that safe space, that is like a safe haven.
Mm.
And everybody wants to feel safe.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be able to feel like they can express themselves. And and I'll give this whole perspective and stuff that I've seen. There is a complete war going on between the male species and the female species. And what I mean is this. I mean, look at your podcast. You have those men podcasts that's saying they wouldn't take this from a woman. They wouldn't take this from a woman. And then the women are saying, I won't take this from a man. And we shouldn't take this from a man. And so neither one of us is now creating a safe space.
Yeah. Because we see each other as adversaries. And
right.
Your partner becomes your enemy instead of your friend. And we don't start like that though. How do we get there? How do we get from, oh, I'm in love and I want to make this work and I want to be with you, to seeing your, men and women seeing each other as adversaries?
I would start to say this is generational. We're whatever we are, millennials, Generation X, whatever. But we seen it from the boomer generation.
Yeah.
And we seen the hurt that they have went through. We seen the hurt that our parents have went through, whether it's the mom or the father in the household or not in the household. We seen that hurt.
Yeah.
And then our parents get older and they now, because they're hurt and haven't dealt with their hurt, because most boomer generations, they don't want to deal with their hurt. They just rather cover it up.
Exactly.
The boomer generation is like a landfill. And on a landfill, if you don't know, they cover up trash with layers of dirt. So we have this trash right here, and we're covering it up with layer of dirt. So now we put more trash on top of that dirt, and we're covering it up with more dirt, and it builds and it builds. And now we have a boomer generation in their older age, and now they're hurt, but they're not dealing with their hurt to start uncovering, removing that dirt and start dealing with the trash that's there. Because if you start dealing with the trash that's there, if you remove it, you'll start to notice some gems.
Yeah.
And those gems are positive gems. And so now when we start moving those out of the way, then we can start getting to the healing part of things.
Yeah.
And there are some things that the boomer generation allowed that shouldn't have been allowed. But then there are also some things that shouldn't have been allowed that was allowed, if I'm making sense. And so going back to us, the millennials, now we have seen this stuff, and now we're taking the wisdom from our parents, because now we may have generations on top of generations of marriages that didn't work. And they're bitter from it. And now they're pouring this same wisdom down to us.
Wisdom.
And well, yeah, toxic wisdom at that.
Okay.
And so now we have that same energy. But what happens when you plant a seed? You have a watermelon that grows, and then you can take a seed from that watermelon and plant that seed and grow another watermelon. And the cycle keeps going on. But see, when the cycle continues to go on, it becomes bigger and bigger. And now we're moving in such a toxic space that we really don't understand what we're doing. But now we have caused such a toxic situation, such an unsafe place, that we're going so far along that if we don't get help immediately, it's going to go crashing.
Yeah. So obviously there's a lot of work to do on both sides. This whole idea of men and women being from different planets, Mars, Venus, whatever the book says. I don't know. I've been doing a lot of reading recently. Some of the readings from Dr. John Gottman, who is a really renowned psychologist that works with families and that work with families and married couples. And so a lot of what he says in his books around how males and females kind of interact is that we really at the core want the same thing.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of miscommunication around that. But going back to the identity of a Black man or the identity of a man, we don't have to make it specifically about race. Like, what role do you think toxic masculinity has played in your life?
And I would say this. A lot of time, as far as a man goes, we like to pay attention to our engine light, at least most of us.
Mm.
And the thing is, while we're paying attention to that engine light, we don't pay attention to the engine light in our life. Because there are a lot of issues that are going on in our life that we're not paying attention to. We're not paying attention to these signs and saying that I need help. I need to get this help. I need something is going on. So let me get help. And as men, we like to fix things. We're fixers by nature.
Right.
And so we try to work on cars, and some of us don't even know what we're doing. And because we're trying to fix something, because when we're trying to fix something, it causes another issue because we didn't know what we was doing that current problem. And now we're going back to the parts store and we're talking to somebody else who really is working in a place that acts like they know what they're doing, but they don't know what they're doing. So now they're giving us advice, and now it's just causing a whole catastrophe of everything.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about this. I heard T.D. Jakes tell this story. He said there was a father who was an alcoholic, and he had two sons. One son didn't become an alcoholic because he said, I seen my father become an alcoholic. The second son became an alcoholic, of course, because he seen his father become an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we know the son that it became an alcoholic. We know he needs help. But let's not focus on him. Let's focus on the son who didn't become an alcoholic. Because it goes back to what I was just saying earlier. Women want the man with the bag and got the nice car and stuff, but doesn't worry about what's going on with him internally.
Wow.
So what am I saying is this man, he's doing good in life, but he's not paying attention to the car light that's going, the check light engine that's going on in his life.
Right.
He's doing good. He's got the great job. He's speaking into people's lives, but he's not realizing that there's some issues going on. He's not paying attention to the signs of when something that happens in his life that triggers him. That's a sign of showing, brother, you need help.
Right.
And what happens is he keeps going and he's going and he gets into this place where he needs help and he's not getting the help. And it's a danger. Yeah. Because what happens is he ends up crashing. Wow. And we're not talking about the men who are doing good, but they end up crashing. And then we're wondering, well, what went wrong? And see, we're not talking about that young man, though he's doing good. The little boy inside of him is hurting. Because though he grew up to be a good man, we're not talking about the childhood trauma that he went through. We're not talking about how he needed his dad to pour into him from the transition from a boy to a teenager to a man. We're not talking about these things. We're not talking about how when life starts to hurt, and he needed his dad to speak into his life, but his dad wasn't there because his dad was stuck into the bottle. His dad was living his life in his bottle. We're not talking about how that man is still hurting. We're not talking about how when he was growing up, those times he was crying because he seen his dad in and out of jail because of alcoholism. because of the things that alcohol would lead him to with the DUIs and possibly the abusive relationship. We're not talking about these things that what seems to be on the outside a positive man. Right. We're not talking about the inner things that are hurting him. Mm-hmm. We're not addressing these things because what we're looking at is on the outer appearance, that he's doing good, that all is well. He has kids. He's in the kids' lives because he understood what it meant to be in their kids' lives, but he's not addressing his hurt.
Yeah.
And it's critical that he deals with this toxicness that's in him that he doesn't. And the thing is, everybody around him, he doesn't have anybody around him that's telling him, brother, you need to get help. Because to them, he's doing good in life. So why do I feel like he needs help? Because it's clearly shows that it's his brother who needs help. But we're not addressing his issues. We're not addressing the fact that he needs to get help too.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I can definitely relate to that experience that you told about Jake's telling the story of the way the two men responded to their dad being an alcoholic. I have, my story, but the audience doesn't fully know my story. I have very similar situation in growing up in, having a mom who was addicted to drugs and a dad who was addicted to drugs and alcohol, and seeing the way that life played out for my sister and versus the way it played out for me. My sister finally kind of found her way, but initially, she struggled kind of and went down that path that my mom did. Whereas for me, it was like drugs. No, I'm not even going to try marijuana. Now that's a different story today, but at that particular time in my life, it was like, I'm not even going to do that because in there, they always talk marijuana is a gateway drug. So you don't want to try that or whatever, because you don't want to lead down that path to trying harder things or whatever. So I can definitely understand that you can have two people in the same situation. Now, just because I didn't become a drug addict or an alcoholic, my last psychiatrist would probably beg to differ with that. Even though I didn't struggle with that, I still needed the help because of the residual effects of growing up in that type of environment. So just because you come out with is perceived to be clean and it's kind of like you shared in the story, just because you have it together outwardly, it's important to still examine those things. So if someone is listening who is experiencing that, like, you think you got it together, trust me, there are parts of you that still need to be examined and need to be able to, you need to be able to explore and unpack those things with a professional that can help you walk through that. So,
and let me say this. Mm-hmm. And to those men that are out there who doesn't feel like they need therapy, because again, we like to fix things, but it also goes back to that safe space and that confusion of society. And a lot of men don't want to go to therapy. They don't want to seek help from a therapist because they're like, can I even trust you?
Right.
So many other people have let me down in life, but how do I know that I can trust you? How do I know that it's a safe space? And I go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, what was it like for you opening up and going to therapy?
Well, let's tell a story first. Years upon years ago, when I first tried, my mama put me into therapy. I didn't feel like it was a safe space because the lady, she wouldn't hear me. She wouldn't hear my hurt. She wouldn't hear the pain that I was experiencing. And so me personally, I ain't fit to do therapy because them people, I can't trust them anyway because they don't want to hear the hurt and the pain that I'm going through. So why the heck should I even try seeking a therapist? Because you're going to hurt me just as much as all of the other people that have hurt me in my life. And as a man, we think like that because we think with logic in our brains or what we think is logic.
Right.
And because we're like, it doesn't make sense. and I don't feel safe in this, but eventually you have to get to a place where what I like to call is you have to come to a point where you have to jump. And you have to not be afraid of how you're going to land, but trust you're going to land. And I had this awesome sister to help me understand that finding a good therapist is like a relationship. You have to, in so many words, date your therapist. Now, brothers, I mean, I know us. I'm not literally saying try not to go out there and date your therapist. What I'm saying is test the waters to see if you can really trust them. See how you feel comfortable with them until you find that right one. Now, I told you my experience of when I was a child. And now what I am experiencing now with my therapist. My therapist, I ain't gonna lie, she is the truth. She gets your boy all together, all the way together. Okay. And I can honestly say, listen to me just from experience. It has helped me in so many ways to deal with a lot of the childhood trauma, to deal with the stuff that I didn't even know was there. The things that were affecting my marriage and how they connect with the trauma that I experienced in my childhood and to now the man. And I never understood that. And I will also say this. It matters who you surround yourself with.
Right.
It truly matters, because when God started putting me around certain guys, my brothers, Coach Crump, DeMont, my bro Red, when he started putting me around these guys, it started changing the way I see things. When I was hearing Crump talk about therapy, I never heard a man talk about therapy.
Okay.
Like really, what is this? So it triggered something in me that if I see another man talking about therapy, well, let me try this out. And not only did I try, he gave me a reference towards somebody. And I tested the waters, and it was like, wow, okay. And I treaded carefully. I opened up a little bit, and I saw how she helped me. And here we are. I'm building this relationship. I'm testing to see if you are the one who can help me. Are you the Neo for my life? Who can unlock the trauma, who can help me heal this stuff, the stuff that I've been burying. Remember, I was just talking about the landfill,
right?
The barriers, who can help me uncover this stuff and remove the trash and start finding the gems.
Yeah.
And now I understand how important it is to see my therapist. For a long time, I've always heard you talk about how excited how ready you were to see your therapist. And now I'm like, dang, I see what my sister was talking about now, because I can't wait. Because I see how helpful it is, and I see how much I have grown.
Yeah.
When I first came to her, I was a wreck. And now to see how I've been growing, now I ain't gonna lie, today she hit me hard.
Hey, that 1-2 punch.
Yeah, you called me earlier. I told her I'm just in reflecting right now.
Yeah.
I'm just being transparent, because we need this. But sometimes we need those hard things to help us get aligned right. Being aligned is never fun. It's never easy. Growing is never fun. It's never easy, but it's necessary.
Yeah, it's definitely necessary. As you were talking about dating your therapist, I had to go back to that one, because please don't date your therapist. I just want to reiterate what you said. That's just, don't try to date your therapist. It's unethical, and they are definitely going to discharge you. But started courting a new therapist recently. And it was interesting. But it takes time to find someone that's a good fit. I'm not changing therapists, but going through some stuff personally that I felt needed a different perspective, because I've been with my therapist since 2018. And, I feel like she's very close. She knows a lot of my ins and outs. And, you don't see someone for that long and not want to be protective of them, which, any therapist is going to want to be protective of them, of their clients. But I ended up having to kind of date a new therapist, and the jury's still out on them. Because it can be hard to connect with someone, and like you have to go into therapy with an open mind, in that trust being built is going to take time, knowing that you may not gel with someone in the first session, or you may absolutely know in the first session, hey, nah, this ain't a good fit. I'm not going back. And it's okay. It's okay to tell the therapist, hey, you know what, this actually, I don't really think that this is a good fit. It's not going to hurt their feelings, because they may be feeling the same thing towards you. But it is important to find your match and find someone that you feel safe to kind of explore those things with, because it takes a lot of time to kind of build that and find the right person. So you don't have to find it in one walk. Date around, find the person that's a good fit for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Most definitely.
Yeah. Can you speak a little bit to the identity piece of, like, that identity crisis you were speaking about earlier, and how maybe you've seen others struggle with that?
Man, because men, it goes back to men being fixers.
Mm-hmm.
We feel like we have to be in control of things.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, that is toxic.
Right.
And men have to understand that we can't fix everything. We can't control everything. It's okay to let things go and let it do as it may. It's okay, because one thing that we have to realize that in the end, and when it's all said and done, God is in control anyway.
Yeah.
And even in the midst of therapy, it has taught me to lean and rely on God even the more, and not on so much on myself. And we can't control every situation.
Right.
Be comfortable with knowing that things are going to work out if God sees fit. Be comfortable with knowing, because whether men realize it, will admit to it or not, we're afraid of being hurt. And that's why we're trying to fix everything. But the thing is, while you're trying to fix everything around you, you need to fix what's inside of you. Because when you fix everything inside of you, it dictates and it changes the environment around you. We have to start digging in deep first before we can even change anything around us. We're so busy trying to change everything around us that we're not changing what's inside of us. And that is a very important and critical thing that we do. So I really feel that is one of the important things.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your openness and your transparency, and kind of talking about your journey with therapy, as well as talking about the male identity and exploring that, because I think it's so important. Men going to therapy. It was a television show my wife was watching, and I can't remember the name of the television show, but there was a group of guys on there, and they were like, black boys that go to therapy, and like really bigging that up. I think it was like black boys that go to therapy, yay, or some stupid crazy stuff like that. But it was so fun, because I love the idea of like black men pursuing that. There's a counseling group in out of Atlanta, Georgia. Actually, I know exactly the name of it. Counseling Brothers of Atlanta, and they're a group of Black therapists, male therapists. So for anyone listening who is looking for a Black male therapist, check out their space. I just wanted to put that out there because we're talking about that, and sometimes Black men definitely need another Black man to be able to really relate to their experience. That's not to say that Black women or any other therapist that has the training is equipped to assist and help. But it is to say that, if you're able to connect with someone that looks like you, it can help ease you into the rapport building stage of therapy. So just wanted to shout them out real quick. Before we get out of here, anything else you want to share? What you got going on?
Man, I got a lot going on right now. Shout out to my guy, Red. We have started a mentorship for young kings. It's called Lost Boys to Men Presents the Relentless Man. So as of right now, tomorrow we're doing our second session. Just from the first session, we already see an impact. So it's exciting to pour into the young kings because they don't have to go down the same struggles that we had to learn, those hard lessons.
Right.
So, we always have to remember to pour back into those behind us. That's what life is all about.
Yeah.
And pouring back positive stuff. Not this negative wisdom. But I'll be back with my podcast soon. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of internal work. I also started another business, Relentless Contents, where I create content for other people, social media management, video editing. Just holler at your boy.
Okay.
New book coming soon this year, maybe two. We'll see. We'll see how that comes out. But I'm excited to see where this journey is going. It's been a lot of growth for me since last year when I interviewed with you on season 1. I do want to say that season 3 of Relentless Conversation is not completed yet. So I'm saying that to publicly let you know that you will be on there.
Blah, 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 blah. But okay. So how can people connect with you, man?
You all can find me at K Noel Motivates. That's across every platform, including YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I'm on TikTok now, but I'm not really doing nothing with TikTok yet. I'm not a TikToker. Okay. I prefer Instagram, but y'all can find me on all of those platforms. Be sure to holler at your boy when you see this. Let me know how it helped you. Let me know how it impacted you. So that's where you can find me. My website is relentlessmotivationalgroup.com. It's about to go through an uplift on my website. I also have my podcast website, relentlessconversations.com.
You got a lot of ways for people to reach you. I'm like, I need to get my life together, but I'm not that advanced. But thank you again for your time today and taking time out. I know it's been a hectic day for you, so I really appreciate you still, being intentional about being here and wanting to help the audience move forward. But thank you so much for your time.
No doubt. Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode. I know that you guys are going to definitely connect with Ken. I'm going to make sure all of his information is in the description of this episode. Also, be sure to follow me, Tree the LPC, on all social media platforms under the handle Tree the LPC. Until next time, be safe, be well, and make sure that you take care of your mental health.